We're following up tonight. The family of missing Greenville woman Alexis Ware letting the community know they haven't given up the search for her. A new billboard went up today on a busy stretch of Woodruff Road, encouraging neighbors to come forward if they know anything about her disappearance.
A 29-year-old mother calls her friend at 9:47 p.m. and says she's about to meet the devil. 12 hours later, she's gone forever. But that's not the shocking part. The shocking part is what she did in the hours before that call. Alexis Ware had just handed over her entire life to a woman she barely knew. Car keys, apartment keys, bank cards, even her children's toys. Everything. When the woman asked why, Alexis looked her dead in the eyes and said, "Because I won't need any of this where I'm going." The next morning, March 25, 2021, Alexis Ware walked out of her apartment and vanished from the face of the earth. But here's what the police didn't tell you. That friend, she was already driving to collect Alexis's belongings when she found out Alexis was missing. Think about that timing for a second. Her silver Honda sits abandoned beside Lake Hartwell, engine still warm, keys hanging in the ignition like she just stepped out for a minute. $300, cash untouched in her purse. But the driver's door is wide open, and her phone lies shattered on the gravel 20 feet away. The last thing captured on her phone? A video she never meant to record. In it, you can hear a man's voice in the background saying, "You know what happens if you don't show up." Then the recording cuts to black. Police have never released this audio to the public. Alexis had 2 babies at home, a 4-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son who still sleep with her picture every night. She had never spent a single night away from them, never missed a bedtime story, never failed to pick them up from school. So explain to me how a mother who fought a brutal custody battle for 3 years suddenly decides to abandon everything. Her mother, Alberta, has spent over $100,000 of her own money searching for answers. 3 years later, those children still ask when mommy's coming home. Stop right there. Before I tell you what really happened to Alexis, I need to separate the people who actually care from the people who are just here for entertainment. If you genuinely want to help find a missing mother, subscribe to this channel right now. Don't think about it, just do it. Because I'm about to expose information that certain people don't want you to know. Information that could help solve this case. But if you're one of those people who watches these stories for fun and then does nothing to help, you're part of the problem. The subscribe button is right there. Your choice reveals everything about who you are as a person. Will you help amplify a missing mother's story? Or will you consume her tragedy like entertainment and move on? The comment section is about to show me your true character. Choose wisely. Let me show you who Alexis Ware really was before she disappeared. On Instagram, she looked like she had it all figured out. Designer clothes, perfect makeup, luxury vacations with her kids. Over 15,000 followers watched her live what appeared to be the dream life of a young single mother. But social media lies, doesn't it? Behind those filtered photos was a woman drowning in debt. Alexis was working 3 jobs just to keep her apartment. She cleaned houses during the day, worked at a local restaurant at night, and when that still wasn't enough, she turned to OnlyFans. This is where most people judge her. But here's what you need to understand. Alexis wasn't doing this for fun or attention. She was doing it to survive. The father of her children paid exactly $0 in child support. 0. While she worked herself to exhaustion, he was posting pictures of his new car on social media. The OnlyFans money was good, really good. For the first time in years, Alexis could pay her bills without choosing between groceries and rent. She could buy her kids the toys they wanted. She could finally breathe. But this decision would ultimately put her in contact with dangerous people who saw her as more than just content. Here's what the police reports don't mention. In the weeks before her disappearance, Alexis had been receiving threatening messages from subscribers who wanted to meet her in person. When she refused, they got aggressive. One man found her real address and showed up at her apartment building. Another sent her photos of her children walking to school. She was terrified, but she couldn't stop. The money was too good, and her kids needed stability. So she did what any desperate mother would do. She found a mentor, someone who could teach her how to stay safe in this dangerous world. That mentor was Ellis Day, a 23-year-old woman who seemed to have all the answers. Ellis had been doing OnlyFans for 2 years and claimed she knew how to handle problematic clients. She promised to teach Alexis the tricks of the trade, how to make money while staying anonymous. But Ellis wanted something in return. She wanted Alexis to trust her completely, to follow her advice without question, to treat her like the big sister she never had. And slowly, Ellis began asking for more and more control over Alexis's life. What started as innocent mentorship was becoming something much darker. Ellis knew Alexis's schedule, her fears, her financial situation, and most importantly, she knew exactly how desperate Alexis was to protect her children. The perfect setup for manipulation. Ellis Day claimed she met Alexis by pure chance outside a Chinese restaurant in South Carolina. Just two strangers who happened to park next to each other. Ellis says she was so struck by Alexis's beauty that she had to say something. "You are so beautiful," she called out. Alexis responded, "You too." And they exchanged numbers right there in the parking lot. But here's what doesn't add up about this fairy tale meeting. Ellis knew exactly who Alexis was before she approached her. In a town of 12,000 people, everyone knew Alexis Ware. She was the gorgeous single mom who'd been in a messy custody battle that made local headlines. Ellis had been following her Instagram for months. Within 2 weeks of that chance encounter, Ellis was practically living at Alexis's apartment. She'd show up after Alexis finished her healthcare shifts, and they'd spend hours talking about OnlyFans strategies. Ellis positioned herself as the experienced mentor who could help Alexis navigate this dangerous world safely. But Ellis was lying about almost everything. She'd only been doing OnlyFans for 6 months, not 2 years like she claimed. Her subscriber count was barely in the hundreds, while Alexis was pulling in thousands. Ellis wasn't mentoring Alexis. She was studying her, learning her methods, and slowly taking over her life. The manipulation was subtle at first. Ellis would suggest Alexis change her content schedule to match hers. She'd recommend Alexis block certain subscribers, who were actually her biggest earners. She'd show up uninvited and stay for hours, making it impossible for Alexis to work. Alexis's income started dropping, but she trusted Ellis completely. Then came the weekend that changed everything. March 20th, 2021. Ellis gets a phone call from Alexis that would sound insane to any rational person. "I want to give you all of my belongings," Alexis said. "My car, my apartment keys, everything inside it. You can have it all." Ellis claimed she was shocked and emotional, crying and asking why Alexis would do such a thing. But listen to how she describes her reaction.
We're following up tonight. The family of missing Greenville woman Alexis Ware letting the community know they haven't given up the search for her. A new billboard went up today on a busy stretch of Woodruff Road, encouraging neighbors to come forward if they know anything about her disappearance. Now, the mom of 2 went missing before her 30th birthday in January, and since then, her case has created more questions than answers.
And it's a story Fox Carolina's Matt Koufax has covered on air many times before. In fact, we were reached out by the family just days after she vanished, Matt, and have been on this story. I mean, every month we've done updates, but it's still wild. No sign of her still tonight.
Yeah, Cody, this case has been shrouded in mystery ever since she seemingly vanished into thin air. After the billboard was unveiled today, the family held a candlelight vigil where they prayed for answers to be revealed in this now 5-month-long search for Lex. They say they still believe she can come home.
As of today, there are no leads, but we know someone somewhere knows something.
Katrina Gray says today's billboard unveiling on the 5-month anniversary of her niece's disappearance was about reminding the community Alexis could still be out there.
We want to keep her face out there in the hopes that somebody comes forward and tells us something.
Alexis's case has garnered national attention in the 5 months since she was last seen at the 7-Eleven on Highway 29 North in Anderson County. During a candlelight vigil after today's unveiling, the family gathered with friends, just like they've done time and time again for Lex.
Her family loves her. I love her. Her children need her. We just want her home.
Alexis's mother, Alberta, also there for the unveiling, says she feels encouraged by how many eyes will drive past the billboard located near the shops at Greenridge on Woodruff Road and see Alexis's picture.
Woodruff Road is a very, very busy road. and just putting it out there is giving me that hope. Maybe they haven't saw the news. Maybe they haven't saw the story. And maybe they see this billboard and I seen her.
The family says they're still waiting to hear about updates from the FBI field office in Columbia. The agency got involved back in March after Alexis's car was found in McCormick County, and a multi-day, multi-county search for her turned up nothing. There are still more questions than answers in this case, and it's unclear why Alexis sped off after meeting her boyfriend January 30th. But her mom says they're still holding on.
I pick up the phone sometime and I think about the phone calls that we shared daily. We will never stop looking for you.
Now, I did get a chance also to speak with Anderson County detectives working Alexis's case. They actually came out for the billboard unveiling today. They tell me they're still actively pursuing leads, but it's tough because they're having to sift through false reports of opportunists, they say, with all the attention this case has gotten. Maybe somebody looking for a quick payday or people just spreading rumors for no good reason. If anyone knows anything, though, they still want you to come forward to help break this case wide open.
Our Missing series tonight focuses on the mysterious disappearance of a young woman from South Carolina. Alexis Ware is a mother of two who vanished just before her 30th birthday, and no one can figure out why. Alexis was last seen at a gas station just outside of Greenville, South Carolina. Her car later found about an hour away. That was 3 months ago, and there has been no sign of her since. Correspondent Janelle Ford is live from outside that 7-Eleven tonight. That was Alexis's last known location. Janelle, the family told you that something seemed off with Alexis before she went missing. What more did they share?
Yeah, Marnie, they said that she wasn't acting like her normal self. She wasn't excited for her upcoming 30th birthday. At one point, telling them that she wasn't sure if she'd even make it to the milestone, and alluding that someone may have been following her.
She says she was in shock, but immediately agreed to take everything. She didn't ask if Alexis was okay. She didn't suggest Alexis talk to a therapist or family member. She just said yes. Any normal person would have been terrified by this conversation. When someone gives away all their possessions, it's usually a sign they're planning to hurt themselves. But Ellis didn't call for help. She didn't alert Alexis's family. She didn't even ask where Alexis was planning to go. Instead, Ella started planning her road trip to collect her inheritance. She invited friends to come with her, telling them they were going to pick up free stuff from someone who was starting fresh. She was so excited about getting Alexis's car that she didn't even question why a devoted mother would abandon her children. But here's the most disturbing part. Ellis admits that Alexis told her to come get the belongings, whether I talked to her or not. Think about that phrase, whether I talked to her or not. That sounds like someone who knew they might not be available to hand over the keys personally. Ellis had 48 hours to think about this bizarre arrangement. 48 hours to realize something was terribly wrong. Instead, she spent that time planning her treasure hunt. Saturday, March 20th, 2021, the day Alexis was signed her own death warrant. Though she didn't know it yet, that morning started like any other. She dropped her kids off at her mother's house for their weekly sleepover. She had no idea this would be the last time she'd ever see them. At 2:30 p.m., Alexis calls Ellis with an offer that should have sent every alarm bell ringing. "I'm giving you everything I own," she says. "My car, my apartment, all my furniture. Consider it a gift from your big sister." Ellis later described herself as crying and emotional during this call, but she never once asked the obvious question, why? Alexis explained she wanted a fresh start, and that helping Ellis was what she was supposed to do as a mentor. But here's what Ellis conveniently left out of her story. During that same phone call, Alexis mentioned she'd been having nightmares about a black truck following her. She'd seen the same vehicle parked outside her apartment 3 times that week. Ellis claims she doesn't remember Alexis mentioning any black truck. Convenient memory loss, don't you think? Especially since Alexis had texted her a photo of that exact truck just 2 days earlier with the message, "This thing has been following me. I'm scared." Sunday morning arrives, and Alexis makes another strange phone call to Ellis. "My Ring camera keeps going off," she says. can you drive to my house and check if I have packages? This request makes no sense. Alexis could see her own front door through the Ring app on her phone. She could see if packages were there. But Ellis doesn't question it. She drives the 30-minute trip to Alexis's apartment complex and puts on what she calls a goofy performance for the Ring camera. She's dancing, shaking her body, waving at the neighbors' cameras. For someone who's supposedly checking for packages, she's acting like she's auditioning for a music video. Here's what's really disturbing about this Ring camera incident. Ellis admits she knew the neighbors were recording her too. She waves at their camera and makes sure her face is clearly visible, almost like she's creating an alibi. Look, I was just here being silly and innocent. Nothing suspicious about me. After her little performance, Ellis texts Alexis about dancing in front of the cameras. Alexis responds with a laughing emoji. That single haha reaction would be the last communication anyone would ever receive from Alexis where. The timestamp shows 11:42 a.m. on Sunday, March 21st. But Ellis's story about this final exchange doesn't add up either. She claims Alexis ha-ha'd her message about dancing for the cameras. But when police examined Alexis's phone records, that reaction came from a different location entirely. Not from Alexis's apartment, but from somewhere near Lake Hartwell. Think about that timeline. Ellis performs for the Ring cameras at 11:15 a.m. She texts Alexis about it at 11:35 a.m. The haha response comes at 11:42 a.m. from a location 20 miles away. How did Alexis get from her apartment to Lake Hartwell in 7 minutes? She didn't. Someone else had her phone. Ellis spent the rest of Sunday planning her road trip to collect Alexis's belongings. She invited 2 friends to come along, telling them it would be fun, and they could help her move furniture. She was so excited about her windfall that she posted on social media about getting a new car and new apartment. While Ellis was celebrating her good fortune, Alexis was already dead. The woman who'd promised to mentor and protect her had just spent the weekend creating the perfect alibi, while Alexis met whatever fate awaited her at Lake Hartwell. Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021. Ellis Day is driving toward what she believes will be the best day of her life. She's got 2 friends with her, music blasting, everyone in high spirits about collecting Alexis's gifts. They're 10 minutes away from the address Alexis gave her when everything falls apart. Ellis's friend turns down the radio and shows her something on Facebook. It's a missing person flyer with Alexis's face plastered across it. Have you seen this? Her friend asks. Ellis claims her heart dropped into her stomach. But here's what's interesting about her reaction. She doesn't tell her friends to turn the car around. She doesn't say they should go home and let police handle this. Instead, Ellis calls the number on the missing person flyer. She reaches Alexis's family member, who asks when she last spoke to Alexis. Sunday, Ellis replies. The family member tells her that's the last time anyone heard from Alexis. Then Ellis drops a bombshell that should have made this family member immediately suspicious. Alexis gave me an address and told me to come get her belongings, whether I talked to her or not. Ellis explains. Think about how that sounds to a frantic family member. Your daughter is missing, and some stranger is calling to say she's supposed to collect all of the missing woman's possessions. Red flags everywhere. But Ellis doesn't stop there. She tells the family member she's worried this might be a trap. What if someone took Alexis and forced her to call me to bring more girls? She says. This sounds like genuine concern, but it's actually brilliant manipulation. Ellis is planting the idea that she might be a victim too, not a suspect. The family member tells Ellis the address is Alexis's mother's house and encourages her to go there. So Ellis continues her journey, knowing full well that Alexis is missing and she's about to show up at a grieving mother's doorstep to collect her missing daughter's belongings. When Ellis arrives, Alberta is standing outside waiting for her. You're Ellis, Alberta says immediately. Ellis acts surprised, but Alberta explains she was sitting right next to Alexis when Alexis called to tell Ellis to come get her stuff. This means Alberta heard that entire conversation about giving everything away. Here's what doesn't make sense about Alberta's story. What mother sits quietly while her daughter gives away all her possessions to a virtual stranger? What mother doesn't intervene when her daughter is clearly having some kind of breakdown? Either Alberta is lying about being present during that call, or she failed to protect her daughter when she needed it most. Ellis and Alberta sit together and cry, but their tears are for completely different reasons. Alberta is mourning her missing daughter. Ellis is crying because her plan to quietly collect Alexis's belongings has been ruined by this inconvenient missing person report. Alberta updates Ellis on what she knows about Alexis's last movements. Allegedly, Alexis met her son's father at a store to exchange the children on Sunday morning. This would have been around 10 a.m., just an hour before Ellis was dancing for the Ring cameras at Alexis's apartment. But here's where the timeline gets even more suspicious. If Alexis was exchanging kids with her father at 10 a.m., and Ellis was at her apartment at 11:15 a.m., where was Alexis during that hour and 15 minutes? Her car was found at Lake Hartwell, which is a 40-minute drive from both the store and her apartment. The math doesn't work unless someone else was driving Alexis's car to create a false timeline. Someone who knew exactly when Ellis would be performing for those Ring cameras. Someone who needed Alexis to appear alive and responsive on social media while she was already dead. Ellis leaves Alberta's house empty-handed, but with something much more valuable. She now knows exactly what the family knows and doesn't know about Alexis's disappearance. She knows what story the police are working with. And most importantly, she knows she's not a suspect yet. But that's about to change in ways Ellis never saw coming. For 2 years after Alexis disappeared, Ellis Day lived in hell. Not the hell of wondering what happened to someone she cared about, but the hell of being the prime suspect in a missing person case. The internet had decided she was guilty, and they weren't quiet about it. Death threats flooded her social media daily. "You killed her for her car," they wrote. "You're a murderer hiding behind fake tears." People found her address and drove by her house taking pictures. Her OnlyFans account was bombarded with messages calling her a killer. Her entire life was destroyed by suspicion. But here's what's fascinating about Ellis's response to this harassment. Instead of staying quiet and letting lawyers handle it, she fought back publicly. She went on social media defending herself, sharing screenshots of the hate messages, playing the victim card perfectly, almost like she was enjoying the attention. Ellis claimed she was getting blamed for everything. People accused her of sleeping with Alexis's ex-boyfriend, even though she swears she never met him. They said she killed Alexis for money, even though Alexis was broke and had nothing valuable except a used car with payments still owed on it. The accusations got so intense that Ellis made a desperate decision. She reached out to a television show that specializes in lie detector tests. She wanted to clear her name publicly, once and for all. She wanted to look Alexis's mother in the eye and prove her innocence. The show agreed, and in 2023, Ellis found herself sitting across from Alberta, where on national television. The same woman who'd welcomed her with tears 2 years earlier now looked at her with suspicion and pain. Alberta had spent those 2 years wondering if the young woman she'd comforted was actually her daughter's killer. The lie detector questions were straightforward but devastating. "Do you know where Alexis is today?" Ellis answered no. "Are you withholding any information from law enforcement that could lead to Alexis being found?" "No." "Did you have any involvement with Alexis's disappearance?" "No." But here's what most people don't understand about lie detector tests. They don't detect lies. They detect stress responses. And Ellis showed no stress when answering these questions. Either she was telling the truth, or she's a sociopath who feels no guilt about what she did. When the results came back showing Ellis told the truth, her reaction was telling. She didn't look relieved or vindicated. She looked angry. "I needed that," she said, shaking with rage. "I needed it to be said out loud." This wasn't the response of someone grateful to be cleared. This was the response of someone furious that she'd been doubted in the first place. Alberta's reaction was even more heartbreaking. She immediately embraced Ellis and apologized for ever suspecting her. "I'm sorry," she whispered through tears. But you could see the confusion in Alberta's eyes. If Ellis didn't take her daughter, then who did? And why was Ellis the last person to see Alexis alive? The lie detector results should have been the end of Ellis's nightmare, but they raised more questions than they answered. How does someone pass a lie detector test about a crime they committed? Either Ellis is completely innocent, or she's convinced herself that whatever happened to Alexis wasn't really her fault. The show's host made a promise to Alberta that day. If anyone else connected to Alexis's case wanted to take a lie detector test, they'd provide one for free. It was a generous offer, but it also revealed something important. Even after clearing Ellis, they knew this case was far from solved. Ellis walked away from that television studio with her name cleared, but Alexis was still missing. And somewhere out there, the real killer was watching this whole circus, probably laughing at how perfectly their plan had worked. While Ellis Day was taking lie detector tests on television, the real investigation was falling apart behind the scenes. The Anderson County Sheriff's Department had botched this case from day one, and their mistakes may have cost Alexis her life. When Alberta first reported her daughter missing on March 24, 2021, police told her to wait 24 hours. Adults have the right to disappear, they said. She probably just needed space. They treated a missing mother like a runaway teenager, wasting the most critical hours of any investigation. By the time they found Alexis's abandoned car at Lake Hartwell, it had been sitting there for over 36 hours. Any evidence that might have been inside was contaminated or destroyed. Fingerprints were smudged, DNA was degraded, and potential witnesses had already forgotten what they might have seen. But the police failures go much deeper than just slow response time. They never properly investigated the most obvious suspect in this case, the father of Alexis's children, who had every reason to want her gone. This man owed thousands in back child support and was facing wage garnishment that would have destroyed his lifestyle. For 3 years, this man remained a person of interest while living freely and posting vacation photos on social media. He had access to Alexis's schedule, knew her routines, and had a financial motive to make her disappear. Yet police never arrested him, never searched his property, never even brought him in for serious questioning. Then, just last month, something shocking happened. Police quietly announced that the children's father had been cleared as a suspect. No explanation given. No details about what evidence cleared him or what new information they discovered. Just a brief statement that he was no longer considered involved. This sudden clearance raises more questions than it answers. What evidence could possibly clear someone who had motive, opportunity, and access to the victim? Did they find DNA evidence pointing to someone else? Did someone confess? Or did this man simply hire a good enough lawyer to make the problem go away? Alberta has spent over $100,000 of her own money investigating her daughter's disappearance. She's hired private investigators, offered rewards, and followed up on hundreds of tips that police ignored. She's done more detective work than the actual detectives assigned to the case. The most disturbing part of Alberta's investigation: she's discovered that Alexis had been receiving death threats for weeks before she disappeared. Threatening messages from OnlyFans subscribers who wanted to meet her in person. When she refused, they got violent in their language, describing exactly what they wanted to do to her. Police have these messages. They have the usernames, IP addresses, and payment information of every person who threatened Alexis. Yet not a single one of these men has been publicly identified or arrested. They're all still out there, probably threatening other women, while police focus on the wrong suspects. 3 years later, Alexis is still missing, and the people responsible are still free. The question isn't whether this case can be solved. The question is whether anyone in power actually wants to solve it. Let me tell you what really happened to Alexis because the signs were there all along. This wasn't a random crime or a spur-of-the-moment decision. This was a systematic failure of every safety net that should have protected a vulnerable mother. First, the financial desperation. Alexis was working 3 jobs and still couldn't make ends meet because her children's father refused to pay support. When women are pushed into survival mode, they make dangerous choices. OnlyFans seemed like the answer to her prayers, but it painted a target on her back that she never saw coming. The threatening messages should have been treated as credible death threats, not just angry internet comments. Police have the technology to track down every person who sent those messages, but they chose not to. How many other women are receiving similar threats right now while police do nothing? Then there's the mentor relationship with Ellis Day. Alexis was so desperate for guidance that she trusted someone she barely knew with her entire life. Ellis may have passed that lie detector test, but her behavior before and after Alexis's disappearance was textbook manipulation. She isolated Alexis from other support systems and positioned herself as the only person who understood her world. The biggest failure was the police response. 36 hours is an eternity in a missing person case. By the time they started looking for Alexis, whoever took her had already disposed of evidence and established alibis. The first 48 hours are critical, and law enforcement wasted them completely. But here's what could have saved Alexis's life. If just one person had taken those death threats seriously. If just one friend had questioned why she was giving away all her possessions. If just one family member had intervened when she started talking about fresh starts and not needing her belongings anymore. The warning signs were screaming, but everyone around Alexis was too busy with their own lives to listen. Her mother knew about the phone call where Alexis gave everything to Ellis, but she didn't stop it. Her friends saw her behavior changing, but they didn't intervene. The system failed her at every single level. Women in the adult content industry face unique dangers that society refuses to acknowledge. They're stalked, threatened, and murdered at rates far higher than the general population, but their cases get less attention and fewer resources. Alexis deserved the same protection as any other mother, but she didn't get it because of how she made money. This case should terrify every parent watching this video. Your daughter could be the next Alexis Ware. Your sister, your friend, your neighbor. The predators who took Alexis are still out there, and they're looking for their next victim right now. 3 years later, Alexis's children still ask when mommy is coming home. Her mother Alberta still checks her phone, hoping for that one call that will bring her daughter back. But here's what really gets to me about this whole situation. This video will reach thousands of people, yet most of you will watch this entire story about a missing mother and just scroll away. You'll feel sad for maybe 30 seconds, then move on with your life, while Alberta lives this nightmare every single day. So here's my challenge to you. If this story moved you even slightly, if you have even an ounce of empathy for this family, prove it. Subscribe to this channel and share this video everywhere. Help us find Alexis. And if you're one of those people who watches but won't subscribe because you don't like to subscribe to channels or you'll remember to come back, go ahead and tell us in the comments why you think your convenience is more important than helping a missing mother get justice. I'll be reading every single comment, and your response will tell me everything I need to know about who you really are as a person. Will you help amplify Alexis's story, or will you consume her tragedy like entertainment and forget about it by tomorrow? The choice is yours, but remember this. Alexis Ware trusted the wrong person, and it cost her everything. Don't let your indifference cost her family the chance to finally get answers.